Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 545. Welcome in. Today, joining me is Brian Simpson. Brian, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm a big fan. I'm glad you're back making podcasts again.
Thank you, brother. I love your show, by the way. Like, I don't know if you know this. My favorite podcast is about video games, but the every other thing that happens in my ear is usually your podcast, BS with Brian Simpson. It's like such a good show in the background of my life, doing dishes or laundry or whatever the fuck. And I love it, man.
Yeah, we touch on video games on that a little bit too.
Yeah, well, one of my things I want to talk to you about today is we'll do it later, but I'm curious about Diablo because I've never messed with Diablo, and I know you love it. Hearing you talk about it, and so I'd love to at some point do that.
Yes.
Well, let's start today with football, though. My idea today was talking football and comedy with Brian Simpson. I know you're a Washington fan. How did that happen? How did you become a Washington fan?
So I was born into it. Like I can tell you the moment because so like I said, before I was born, the NFL was forced to integrate, but they were asked to integrate under threat that Congress would make them.
What does that mean, integrate, in this scenario? Like, integrate what?
Like black players. Like they were forced to let black players
desegregate.
And desegregate. Yeah, and the Redskins were the last team. They were the last holdout. So a lot of black folks in D.C. were like, screw the Redskins. I'm gonna root for the rival. So there's a larger than you'd expect Cowboys fan base in Commanders country, and so I was born into there's a lot of families that are split down the middle.
Oh wow!
Where there's like if the Cowboys beat the Redskins, I get a phone call from my mother, my brother, my cousins. We all talking trash. And so it's that kind of thing. And then some people in DC are like, well, we're loyal. Being the Cowboys being a little less racist doesn't make them that, that's how some people look at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because it's not like they were leading the charge,
They're just the lesser of two evils. Like, oh, okay.
Right. And so I remember being maybe 4 or 5 years old, and my grandmother and her and my favorite aunt we were all in the house together, and I remember them arguing about it, and my grandmother made me choose, and because they were talking trash to each other, and my favorite aunt was like, tell her you're a Redskin fan, and my grandma was like, you gonna root for the Deadskins? And I was under this pressure, and I chose, and after that, you can't go back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that switched. No.
I respect that. I respect the ability to like stick with it your whole life. I guess you're like stuck with this team now.
Yeah. They've ripped my heart out so many times, and now I'm not emotionally invested in the Commanders anymore. And this was the RG3 era really broke my heart. We had a good run. Joe Gibbs came back, and that's back when we had LeVar Arrington, and we traded Champ Bailey for Clinton Portis, and we had Sean Taylor and Fred Smoot, and we had a good little run, and then Sean Taylor died, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of took a lot of the wind out of the sails of the fan base, and it was just and after that it was just a clown car. We had Jim Zorn, and we like just a carousel of head coaches, no stability.
Hey, Jim Zorn's a nice man. I'm kidding.
He's a very nice man. He's a horrible head coach.
Horrible.
Yeah, but it wasn't just him. We had the Schottenheimer era too. It was pretty all right, but we never got back to that feeling that like we could win.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I can't tell you how many starting quarterbacks we had. Mark Brunell was the best quarterback we had. And then we had John Elway, and then we had Ron Rivera, 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 and then we had Ron Riv in 20 years probably. So then we draft RG3, and his rookie season was electrifying. And we had sorry, it's my cat. And we had oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Elway. I mean, not Elway. Our head the Broncos head coach from the Super Bowl.
Oh, Mike Shanahan.
We have Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
Look, so listen. This is how much. If you need to know how much the Commanders franchise has fumbled the bag, okay. There was a point where we had Mike Shanahan was our head coach. Kyle Shanahan was on the coaching staff. Who's the
Sean McVay?
Man, I'm too tired. Sean McVay was the quarterback coach, and one more that I missed.
I think it was. It might have been LaFleur. It might have been Matt
LaFleur.
I think
we let all of them go. We let all of them go. They were all on our staff. We let them all walk. Okay, so, but RG3, like, it was the first time I think in my whole life, maybe like since I was a little kid, that we had a quarterback where when he let the ball go, I would get excited every time. I'm like, that could be a touchdown. Anytime he touched the ball, I was like, oh, that's on the money. You know where and in his rookie season, just I don't think we ever had the guy in my adult life. Like the quarterback that the whole division feared was RG3. That rookie season was unbelievable. And it just gave us so much hope. And the way they mismanaged him, and it just took it all out of me, man. Like that playoff game when his knee went, I remember he ran into I want to say Haloti Ngata.
Sounds right.
I
think so. Yeah.
I think he tried to do some Superman stuff, and Haloti Ngata hit his knee, and you could just tell, man, like that was it. And after that, man, I don't trust them. I don't trust them and then I find out about all of the, the sexual harassment and you might have to bleep that. I think you can't say that on the internet.
Hey, we'll figure it out.
But I found out about all the harassment and all of the scams and how they've been selling the fan base fake like stale peanuts, like leftover peanuts from airlines and and keeping season ticket holder money and then playing little games with the away tickets so they could keep skimming money. And like it became apparent that, like, because Daniel Schneider, our former owner, his saving grace was always, people said, okay, you know what? He's an idiot, but he's a rich idiot, and he's a huge Skins fan.
He loves the team.
And so he's willing to spend the money to make us great. But now, it's come on the last few years that he actually just saw the franchise as a way to make money, like a little piggy bank. And he did everything he could to penny pinch and script and shave pennies off, and he stopped the Austin tailgating that was happening, and he's just not a good person, and I don't even know who's going to buy it. I don't even know who owns it now. I know I don't know if it's final, and but yeah, it's probably the most mismanaged franchise in sports next to the Knicks.
Yeah, like a brand with so much potential that's just been run into the ground. It's so sad.
And also that the fan base hates the owner of the team. Like there are no Redskin fans to defend Daniel Schneider. Redskins football team, Commanders, whatever you refer to them as now, there are no Washington fans that support Daniel Schneider anyway. At least not that I've heard.
Yeah, I have hope this year. Do you know about the team this year? Are you excited about them? Like, they got a young quarterback, Sam Howell. They've got they brought in Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator out of Kansas City. Like, there is hope that they've got a really good set of receivers. Like, there's a possibility they're actually okay this year, despite all of the disaster around them. Like they're, for the first time in maybe years since RG3, there's a shot they're okay this year. How does that feel? How does that hear to sound? Or how does that sound to you?
The Commanders?
Yeah.
That sounds like every other year. Ever.
Hey, at least you're realistic. I love that.
Yeah. Every team, it's their job in the offseason to give you hope.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I refuse. And I'm not a bandwagon fan. You know, I still want them to win. I'm not invested in it.
Yeah.
Whether they win or lose. No.
Well, even like, do you know, so their quarterback this year, they, instead of drafting or making a big move, they did something either going to be genius or horrible. They cheaped out and just said, we're going to stick with our fifth round rookie or our second year quarterback who we drafted in the 5th round. We're going to do nothing. No big moves, nothing. And it certainly was cheap. But they're saying, well, 2 years ago, he was viewed as a number 1 overall pick, and you know we got him in the 5th round. It's like, well, you just sold me an argument. You created a really great sales pitch on this player. I don't believe you at all, but we'll see. Like I have an open mind, but I don't trust you.
But he does look good. I mean, I'm willing to wait and see what he's got going on. You know, he doesn't look bad, but again, you know, you go on YouTube, you look up somebody's highlight videos, they all look like number 1 draft picks. You know,
true. Oh yeah.
And you talking about Sam Howell?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it would have been nice to have that strategy when we were giving Kirk Cousins, you know, $100 million, so he could walk away and go get another $100 million from somebody else.
Dude, what was that era like, being a fan, watching? Because you watch every game. Like, what's it like to watch Kirk Cousins week to week? Like, and knowing that's like after RG3 to Kirk Cousins, that can't be easy.
Well, no, because I didn't mind Kirk Cousins. I just didn't think. It was like when we turn to Kirk Cousins, it's like I don't think the coach he had wanted him. You know?
Yeah.
Because the Vikings, you know, because you know what it is. Kirk Cousins is gonna give you. Kirk Cousins he was a star. He's not a superstar.
Yeah, he's solid.
You know, he's
definitely not bad.
Yeah, he could take you to the playoffs. I've never seen him dominate a game and like take over a game. I mean, he looks good there, but I mean, you give anybody Jefferson, you know, Jefferson will make me look good. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like he's one of those receivers you could throw it anywhere in his orbit, and he is snatching it down. You know, so you know, Kirk Cousins is better than anything we've had since.
How do you feel about the name change?
I don't care. You know, it's one of those things where some people took it real personal. You know, but you know, your team is your team. I mean, they weren't always the Redskins. They were the Boston Braves at one point. I think that's the only name change they ever had. But it's like, you know, I think a lot of times we live in a generation where people look for things to be upset about because being outraged is in vogue. And so it's like, does it really matter to you what the name of the team is? I mean, I would have liked if they'd have let the fan base actually vote on it. You know, because I think, you know, Commanders is kind of lame, but it's what it is. That's what being a fan is. You stick through it thick and thin, even through the stupid name or whatever. You know.
Yeah, so I went through a journey. I was a Mariners fan growing up. Seattle Mariners, their baseball team, and I watched them get mismanaged year after year, like bad decision after bad decision, and it broke me. And for a long time, I said I'm not a Mariners fan. I used to be a Mariners fan, and then they made the playoffs, and I was like, dang it! Like, as much as I have all this hatred and pent up stuff, like emotionally, I'm still tied to this team. I still am happy when they win. And when I look at the scoreboard and they lose, I'm still sad. And I'm like, I'll never be able to emotionally separate myself. Do you feel that way with Washington?
Yeah. I mean, it still affects me a little bit, but I try not to. I'm not obsessed with it. You know?
That's healthy.
Like I still love watching football. And so, you know, I'll still watch a game, you know, and you know, I'll still watch the highlights and stuff like that. But I'm not, you know, I don't do fantasy leagues. I don't do anything that makes me have to keep up with it beyond watching the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm curious.
Yeah. No.
Good.
I let people like you keep me informed. You know, I watch you. I watch, you know, this various like FS1 stuff. But and that's it. Like I let that keep me abreast of like the storylines and the drama. And but I'm not subscribed to any of the fan sites. I'm not in any of the subreddits. You know, I don't subscribe to any YouTube channel that's specifically for my team. You know, no, none of that.
Did you play football back in the day?
Very briefly.
What'd you play? What position?
Very briefly. I went out for running back and linebacker when I was a little kid. Yeah, but I love the strategy of it, but I think I'm more of a coach than a like I didn't like getting hit in the head. You know,
that's the best line I've ever heard from anybody. I'm more of a coach. Like, the awareness,
I'm more of a strategizer.
The getting hit guy. Okay, one last football thing. I want to talk about comedy in a minute. I have so many questions, but we have a shared hatred or a shared. I don't know if I want to say I hate these people, but they certainly are entertaining and they bring me a lot of joy and a lot of content and a lot of entertainment. Is Cowboys fans. You got to tell me how you feel about Cowboys fans.
Well, yeah, they're trash people. Listen. I don't know how the Cowboys fan. I mean, I just moved to Austin, so I'm, you know, and this will be my first football season here. Really, actually, I moved here last August, but I wasn't really out.
Yeah.
So this is my first full football season in Austin. And I don't know if they are as insufferable here as they are back home. But like I told you, my whole life, you know, anytime the Cowboys win or the Washington would lose, or especially if they beat us or we beat them, it was always, you know, for the whole week, the whole family is arguing, sending texts, sending memes, and so they just irritate me because they were bred to do that. To be irritated. No class. I mean, you know what? To be honest with you, they're classier than Eagles fans. Only Eagles and Raiders. Whenever the Eagles or Raiders played us at home, that was the only time there were fights in the bathroom. You know, like there'll be fights every game. Sometimes people get drunk, whatever. But only Raiders and Eagles fans will fight you in the bathroom. You know, it's penises out. Why we throwing punches? No class, these people.
Have you done comedy in Philadelphia?
I have, yeah. Actually, I love doing comedy.
It's a fun city, man. Like, well, that's because the same intensity they bring to sports, they bring to everything. They're like, actually, like my dream job, if I didn't do national sports, if I did like local radio somewhere, would be either Philly or New York. But I would kind of lean towards Philly because of the passion and the energy there is insane.
Yeah, you know what I say? Philly, when you're in Philly, it feels like you're in a movie about Philadelphia. It's like it's exactly what you expect it to be. You know what I mean? It might be the only place that's portrayed in movies and TV and media exactly correctly. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's good food. You know, and people are. They're like it's like a hard work, like a blue collar place.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know.
Let's talk about comedy. I'm curious. I think the way I'd like to frame this conversation is that you're hilarious, like, and you take it very seriously. And I'm curious about the way you view it as a career. Like, when was there a moment, or when was the moment you're like, hey, I think I can turn this into something. I think this is, if I work at this and really, because I've done stand up a little bit, I know how hard it is, and I did it enough to know, hey, this probably isn't for me. And I have so much admiration for you. Tell me when it first clicked and you're like, I think I could do this as a career.
Oh, the first time somebody gave you money.
No, because that's different. Getting paid is one thing, but there's a moment where it clicks, like, okay, I think I could turn this into something, where you start working at it. You start writing.
No, that's what I mean, is because in the beginning, nobody would say you're funny. They would just book you on stuff, you know? So like I was doing shows here, there. I probably done, you know, maybe 25, 30 open mics, and I'd done maybe 5 or 6 shows. But on that 6th show, it was the first time I was on a show that had a tip bucket, and so the audience put money in the tip bucket, and and everybody got a cut of the bucket there. Everybody didn't get an equal cut of the bucket. But somebody gave me, I ended up giving $20 for something that I wasn't expecting to get any money for. And I was like, well, wait a minute, hold on now. If I $20, hey, well, wait a minute. He was like, yeah, but you stick around long enough, and we'll give you 40. And I was like, really? And I was like, if I can get that up to, if I can get 10 of these a week, which was unrealistic.
Sure.
But I didn't know that. But if I can get this up to a substantial amount and enough shows, I wouldn't have to do anything else.
Yeah.
And so, and then maybe a year went by, and then I did a show with I got to be a guest. It was a comic named Clint Coley that used to open for D.L. Hughley. And he talked D.L. D.L. was headlining the comedy club that I worked at. And he talked him into giving me like a 5-minute guest spot or whatever. And I did my little guest spot. And I remember him coming up to me afterwards. And he didn't see it, by the way. But he heard about it. And he came to me afterwards and he like repeated the joke. He's like, hey, you got some good stuff there. And he's like, hey, listen, just he's like, try your best to be good to people on your way up. And that's all he said. That was the only advice he gave. And right then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm all in. Whatever that means, whatever it costs me, I'm just gonna do it. So even if that means I'm gonna be living in a truck or whatever, like I'm going on it. And I did. I dropped out of school. I started working at a pub. I moved to LA with no plan. Ended up living in a homeless shelter, but I got a job as a door guy at the Comedy Store. So it was like every time something made me want to stop, something else would happen to make me go, oh, you can't stop.
Man, you're aware, I hope, of how incredible that story is. Like to say, because I believe you're a veteran, you served in the military. I assume before this.
Yeah.
And then you get out.
Yeah.
Sounds like you went to school and were like working, and then you're like, screw all this. I know I have a dream. I know what I want to do, and I'll do literally anything it takes to make it happen. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Well done. I mean, you've done very well. That's very cool.
Yeah, but you know what though? It also irritates me that's my story, because I think it's it sounds good like it's good rhetoric to say, just go after your dreams and all this, but it's like, but what you're really doing is you're gambling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it doesn't, for every me, there's 50 other people that are, because I was in that homeless shelter with people with dreams, and some of them were very talented, and I haven't heard from them since, so it's like for every one of me that made it, there's 50, 100 other people that didn't, So it's not a matter of you just wanting it bad enough. All that shit sounds good when people say it. Oh, if you just want it bad enough. No, you have to really accept that it may not happen. The decision you're making is the attempt. That the attempt is what takes courage, but also you have to accept that it may not happen. Like that's the gamble you're taking is like, because I could easily be like a busboy somewhere or a bar back somewhere right now. But I accepted that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you cover sports. You see a lot of these athletes. You see like Last Chance U, and and think about everybody that gets drafted. Think about all the thousands of other people that had the same dream and they just aren't ever going to do it. or people that, and they have the talent and everything, and some freak accident, they tore a ligament, or, they got in trouble with the law or something, So, I don't like it when people use my story to be like, yeah, see, he made it, just go after it. And it's like, no. Really think about what you're doing and make sure it's a choice that you're making, and make sure that you know what you're risking.
I mean, can I speak to that? I took a risk. I knew the place I wanted to be was Hawaii. And I don't know if you know, I took a break and walked away for a while, and I actually did HVAC. I was installing air conditioning units, and I was like, I want to be in Hawaii. How can I make that happen? That's my dream. And I got an opportunity. I made it happen. And I said, well, if I fail at coming back to YouTube, I can always go lean back on doing HVAC. But I jumped into this comeback knowing that this may not work. And it's gone really well, and I think it's actually going to work. I got a big sponsor for next month, and it's kind of insane how quickly I've actually got back to where I'm like, okay, I can breathe, and I'm okay. I didn't realize it'd be this quick. But I knew when I came back to Hawaii, Strong Opinion Sports may not succeed, and I might have to go back to HVAC, but you're going to have to rip me out of this island. Like, the same way you had this dream to get to do comedy for a job. I'm like, you're going to pull me kicking and screaming out of Honolulu. Like, I'm not going to leave. I'll do any job it takes to live here. And so I totally understand what you're saying, that willingness to show business just because you work hard and do a lot of stuff doesn't mean you're going to succeed. It takes a lot of, I think luck is actually a big part of it too, that we don't talk about. Like, I know a lot of guys that work really hard.
Luck is a huge part of it.
And have gone nowhere. And I think that,
yeah, man, you're right.
You have to acknowledge that. It seems cruel to not do that.
I mean, well, that's the thing. You work hard so that when your luck comes in, you can take advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the hard work for. The hard work doesn't, and you may not never get your shot, or right when you're ready, the business might be looking in another direction. Things might shift up under your feet, But for me, it was always just, I knew that I couldn't do another thing because I'd had great jobs before all this, and I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled, and I knew I had to do something like this. I didn't know it was comedy at the time, but I knew I had to do something other than the traditional 9 to 5, and and there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's no shame in having a job. But I've been bad at and fired from every job or quit. And because I can't, I don't know, man. I feel constrained. I feel like, because when I got out of the service and I worked at Intel for a little while. I worked at the Pentagon for a little while, and both jobs were very great, paid well, good time off, good hours, all those things. But I just felt like none of it mattered. Like I'm sitting there going like, I'm doing a job that I could teach a fucking 10-year-old how to do this, and I'm not happy. Yeah, I'm making good money, but I hate this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and comedy was the first thing that I ever found in my whole life that I was good at and I love doing.
Yeah.
I've been good at a lot of things that I didn't enjoy, and I've enjoyed a lot of things that I wasn't good at. But comedy was the first thing that was both. And so for me, it was more like, it wasn't even it was a no-brainer. And it was ridiculous to think that I could actually be great at it. But it's so funny, other people started believing in me before I did.
Really?
And that was the other part of it too. It's like people that were great at it were telling me that I couldn't. So I didn't just go all blind faith, as I'm sure I'm sure there's a lot of people in your life, or a lot of other YouTubers, or a lot of other sports personalities that are like, hey man, what you're doing is great, and that's what, that's like ambrosia from the gods when you hear that from people, certain people.
Yeah.
So
I have a story about that.
Please do.
I was in a crawl space 2-3 months ago, and I got a phone call from a really big podcaster in the sports world who kind of blew my mind. I don't know how they got my number. I don't know what happened. I'm literally under a house next to rat poop. Like, working on a refrigerant line. I get a phone call, and this guy calls me and goes, "Why are you not doing the show? Like, why are you not talking about sports?" And I didn't have a good answer. It's like, "You should be back." And that was the first moment I was like, it kind of got the gears turning, like I should maybe come back. And it was getting a vote of confidence from another outside source, like a peer, that made me go, oh, like maybe it kind of gave me the first step towards having confidence again, that I should come back. Like maybe I'm good at this.
Was it Pat McAfee or Sherry Shaw?
I'm not saying anything, man.
I'm kidding.
I'm not saying anything.
Well, those are the biggest names in the but yeah, you have a very specific style, and it's very thorough and in depth. And there is a huge part of the sports fan world that wants that, especially nowadays where it's, quick, hot takes and debates, and it doesn't go in that, because you won't tell me that Jim Zorn sucks and move on. You'll go, here is 10 reasons why Jim Zorn was a bad coach, and go through film, and, like a lot of people don't go that in depth about it. They just want a hot take for the views, Because I remember seeing you when you first started. I might have caught you on like maybe a second or third video. I was like, this dude is is better than most of the stuff on ESPN. Yeah, it's only a matter of time then before you really, you capture the sports nerds. That's your audience, the sports nerds, the people that are really into it. Yeah, like the lazy ones. Because I'm the type of person where I want to know all that stuff, but I don't want to do all that research.
Yeah. Dude, thank you, man.
I paid the fee. I have access to the all 22, but I never watch it.
I'm curious because you said something earlier. You got paid like 30 open mics into getting it. So how does a guy end up doing 30 open mics? Like, because that's still a decision. You still were like, hey, I might be good at this. There's a decision made to go do an open mic, because I did 2, and after 2, I was like, I got a laugh enough, and it was really painful when I didn't get a laugh, and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna do this ever again. And so you kept going through that. How did that happen?
Oh yeah. Well, initially, I mean, I'd always been encouraged since I was in the service to try to do stand up, and I never really was serious about it. And then one day, I went to a show with a friend of mine, and it was real bad. And I think it was my second comedy show in my whole life. And it was so bad, I couldn't believe it. And she goes, well, you're funnier than all these people. And I was like, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. And then walking home that night, or maybe it was the next night, I walked into this bar that I never walked into. And I was laughing and joking at the bar with these people, and it turns out that they just ended this storytelling show, and they were like this nonprofit. They're called So Say We All in San Diego, but they still exist too. They do storytelling in a very like modern way, and they were thinking about trying comedy. And the guy running the whole organization, he was like, yo, we have a comedy show coming up in like 3 months. You want to be on it? I was like, sure. And so I was already booked, and I started going to open mics to get to that.
Yeah, you're like prepared.
And so, oh yeah, because all my veteran friends that stayed in San Diego had been waiting for me to do comedy. They were all going to show up, and I just didn't want to embarrass myself.
Yeah. What's your writing process like? I mean, do you sit down and write regularly? I think the best thing I got from HVAC was it taught me discipline of like, I really sit down now and I tune everything out and I just write for hours. What's your process like? It's weird to not have a set schedule that you can make yourself.
Yeah. It just depends on what's going on, but generally, I write down anything I say that gets a laugh or has everyone quiet and paying attention to it. And or anything that makes me feel like some kind of strong emotion. Because I tend to complain funny. So when something really gets to me and I'm really complaining about it, is when a lot of the funny stuff comes out. So I tend to write it down, and then I go home and I think on it. I go on stage, I rant about it. I record it, I come back, I listen to it, I type it out, I edit it. And so it's just that over and over and over again. And and obviously it gets hard sometimes, but I just tell myself, that I'll do it for 5 minutes every day. And sometimes it's 5 minutes, and sometimes it turns into 3 or 4 hours. But I'm a big fan of work-life balance. I don't overwork myself. Yeah, I always make sure I have time to just chill and do nothing and just think. Yeah, think about it. Think about like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku or what is it? They're theoretical physicists. You know what that means?
Theoretical.
It's like their job. Yeah, their job is just to sit around and think, and then tell people what they think. That's it. I mean, obviously they all have side gigs, they professors or whatever, but
yeah,
they're what they do is theoretical physics. And so it's like if they sitting around thinking, I'm trying to do that too. I'm trying to do theoretical comedy. I'm sitting around theorizing jokes, And sometimes that means you just gotta chill. Which makes it tough because sometimes your loved ones don't respect the fact that you appear to be doing nothing.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I'm really doing everything right now. I just need you to, I need you to leave me alone so I can do everything. And you look at it like I'm doing nothing.
I think so. I know a lot of comedians here in Hawaii that are friends of mine, and they're usually comedians are my favorite people because you guys spend all day thinking, and you think about the shit that makes people uncomfortable, the stuff that is taboo, the stuff, and you think and often ask questions, and usually comedians have some of my favorite thought process just on whether it's funny or not, just in life, because everything they're doing is thought through and thought out. And that's something I think society lacks in general is people aren't thinking about, why do I believe this? Does this make sense? Does that? And you guys tend to ask yourself lots of questions that are probably everyone should do. It's really healthy to do that.
Yeah, well, comedians are just they're just the most tolerable narcissists. We're self-aware narcissists. It's like we keep our narcissism in check. But it is constantly thinking about yourself and thinking about what you think and why you think. It becomes almost a self-obsession. You become obsessed with your point of view and that sort of thing. But it's I mean, I imagine there's other artists would say the same thing about themselves. I don't know.
No, I think there's a lot of parallels between what we do and what I do and what you do. Like where we're both sitting and thinking and writing. And why does my opinion about sports matter? Like that's a question I had to really wrestle with over the last year. It's like, yeah, and dealing with am I a narcissist was like a huge question I had to like kind of grapple with.
Yeah, but if you're asking that question, then you're not a narcissist. A narcissist would never ponder that. Yeah. So actually, I heard a dope line today. Somebody told me that narcissists fear being an average person. Their biggest fear is being seen as not special. And I think to temper your because you have to have like a little pinch of narcissism, which doesn't make you a narcissist, but to think that your opinion, the world needs to hear it. But I think checking yourself is the piece that a lot of narcissists miss. Is you have to turn it off. Because you have to do your show. Like you can't start your show off with, "Hey guys, I'm not solid on all of this."
I'm just an idiot.
It's kind of what I think.
Like, yeah, you can't do that.
Right. But that works. That works for some people. I don't know anybody funny that's stupid though.
No, I don't think you can be.
Yeah, like I see Bill Burr all the time. Like, oh, I'm just a dumb guy. It's like, no, you're not.
Bill.
You're not.
Come on, Bill.
No way. No way. You have to, because I don't know anybody that is consistently hilarious that isn't really intelligent. Yeah.
I heard a quote on, do you ever watch the TV show The Bear? Do you ever heard of that?
I keep hearing about it.
Man,
keep hearing about it.
So my brother died, so it was hard for me the first season because it's about a little bit of dead brother stuff in there. But I just finished season 2 the other day, and there's a great quote in it where actually the guy who plays, you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Yeah.
The golden dude from that movie has a cameo in the show, and he gives a line. He says,
"Oh,
you're a better chef when you go and see the world. Like you need inspiration. You need to go out there and enjoy life, and that'll make you better in the kitchen." Basically, like if you spend all your time in your office working and writing and preparing sports content and don't go out and enjoy life, you're not going to be as good of a podcaster. That's what I got out of it. And I would imagine it's similar with comedy. In fact, it's probably everything for comedy. Like you have to go out and have experiences and enjoy stuff.
Because what you're doing is you're putting your emotions into words. You're translating to the outside world how you feel about things. And if you don't understand how the average person thinks or lives or sees the world, how can you possibly do, it's like, I'll give you a perfect example. I saw a guy, I did a show at which was essentially somewhere between a prison and a halfway house. It was like one of those things where people that had been in prison for longer than 10 years, or people that were had got a life sentence and were about to die or something like that, they got to spend the last year and a half or something in this. It was like an apartment build. It was like an apartment complex, but they were still in prison. Like they still had prison guards. They had ankle monitors, but they didn't have bars. They had like apartments. But they had to come back every night if they had a job, that kind of thing. It was like to try to ease them into the world, because if you've been in prison for 15 years, like you gonna get out and you don't know anything. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we do the show for the prisoners, and the only thing they told us not to do is like, don't say anything sexual with regards to the female guards. Right? That was our only restriction. We can talk about anything else. And the guy that goes up before me, his whole act is about his mortgage. You talking to a bunch of guys that have been in prison for more than 10 years. They don't have mortgages. They don't even know what you're talking.
No.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like you don't. It's because he lacked experience with anybody that he probably has never been around anybody that's been to prison, or so he didn't know he couldn't, because there's a way he could have talked to them about mortgages, but because he didn't understand anything about their lives or how they were living, he couldn't make any analogies, or any comparisons, and so it just fell flat. And that's what I'm, that's an example of what you were talking about, where it's like you have to get out and see the world if you're going to talk to the world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's you see those kitchen nightmares people where they, the restaurant used to be a hit and now it's failing, and they go, and you see pictures on the wall where they were in the paper in '89, and the they don't want to change the recipe because the grandfather insists that it's the best ever, and it's like, yeah, go get out of here, go see what the different flavors, because that's the best chefs are always tasting new stuff, and
yeah,
it just goes to what you were saying. Like, hey, you have to be of the world to because those are the only comics that fall off, the ones that lose touch.
Well, what's your strategy? How are you planning to stay grounded and keep in touch with like a regular everyday guy as you go bigger in comedy?
You know what? I started working on this recently. Is I don't shit on the kids. I don't I don't automatically reject the young people and their crazy way they see the world and all of that, because that's how you lose touch. Even if it doesn't make sense to you, even if the world is no longer for you, you still need to be able to understand it instead of being dismissive of it. I make fun of them, but I don't mean it. Like, I'm not mean to them. I don't think they're stupid. I don't think they're this or that. And I pay attention to the youth and what they're saying and where they're headed, because then I can call them soft from an educated point of view rather than an emotional reaction.
Yeah, when you understand a person's perspective, you can speak to them better. You have to, like, I don't want to get into, but anything political, right? I try to always understand both sides. I don't want to talk about politics here, but I try to understand where another perspective might be coming from. And it helps me really, I have friends on both sides of politics, and I get along with everyone great because I understand why they are coming from where they are. And it really helps me, like, relating to people.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's hard to avoid politics in my line of work.
Yeah.
But it's easy for me to talk about politics because I think they're all these.
Yeah.
I think they're all these.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not even on a side when it comes to politicians. I mean, I have political views.
Yeah.
But anybody that wants power, I'm suspicious of.
Yeah. So
right away, as soon as I see you on a ballot, you my enemy. That's how I think you're the enemy of look, what we really need is from the storybooks. We need a reluctant hero. We need somebody that we make be president. Like, they don't want to, but we force them to. Like, we do a GoFundMe and raise up the money, and we surprise Susan, you running for president. She's like, what? But yeah, it's got to be you. The way you run this bakery, everybody loves you.
Yeah.
So you got a successful business. Yeah, you're on the ballot. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't. Yes, you have to. We need that kind of person.
Yeah, you need someone who doesn't. Someone asked me once on Patreon, would I run for president? I'm like, I don't want to do that, but it probably should be someone who doesn't want power, and would listen to everybody. And there was a point in my life where I almost became a cop, not because I really want to be a cop, because I wanted to fix stuff. And I was like, it probably should be someone like me who tries to do that. Someone who is empathetic and you would never think of as a cop. I remember being like, I didn't do that, obviously, but I remember thinking, like, it should be people that don't want it, that have those positions of power.
Right. But that's the whole antithesis of our whole system.
Yeah.
Is you kind of have to want it to get it, I wonder if politicians struggle with that. Do you think, AOC or Trump ever sits around and goes, am I a narcissist?
I don't know, because they never ask that question, right? Like, I would think AOC might ask that more than... So I know a guy, I went to college at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, like a really pretentious liberal arts school. I played football there for a year. And I knew a guy who was, like, really fighting hard to be in politics. And I think he is a successful politician, and he never struck me as the kind of guy who had any kind of empathy or thought about that stuff. Like, he didn't care. He wasn't trying to help anybody or care for anything. I'm curious, can I ask you, let's step away from this conversation. I'd love to ask you about something I think was a big break for you. How did you end up in Joe Rogan's sphere, like in his orbit? How did that happen?
The short answer is Tom Segura.
Big fan of Tom. He's funny.
Yeah, Tom Segura. Yeah, that's the homie. His special just came out on Netflix. He's so funny. Awesome. Yeah, but he was the person that really, really, he really helped me when I had anything going on, and like you said, just luck. Like, I was on a show that he was gonna pop in on one day, and as I was getting off stage, he was like, "Hey man, it was good stuff." I was like, "Thanks, man." And then, like, a year later, he remembered me and called me out the blue and was like, "Hey, you want to open for my show here in the building? I'm like, yep. And I came through, and I was sitting in the green room with him and Christina P. And I told him my whole story, the foster kid, to military, the comedy, the homeless, the comedy. So they were like, what? And I was about to leave. I was about to leave LA because I was just over it, And they talked me in a stand. Tom took me on tour with him. So there was like my first little taste of like doing a giant theater, and it was real cool. And then, fast forward a few years later, I'm about to film my half hour for Netflix, or at least it's coming. It's down the pipe. And by that time, Rogan had already moved to Austin, and a lot of my friends had moved to Austin. So there's a lot of my homies, Derek Posted, Hassan Ahmad, and Matt Lockwood, and we all started in San Diego together, and we all moved to LA together, and they all came to Austin before I did, and I was just coming out here to visit, and I get down here, and then out of the blue I get a call from Joe Rogan, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on? Hey, Segura gave me your number. Like, you want to come do a spot?" And I was like, "Yeah." And yeah, Segura kept telling him I was funny, and he wanted to see for himself, and he saw me be funny once, twice, and then he was like, "Hey man, you got it." He's like, "Whatever, any help you need, let me know." Yeah, and he meant that shit too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, well, to me, I don't know Joe Rogan. I never met him, but I've listened to him for hours, and he strikes me as a man who wants to do good and is very kind. And I don't know him, so it's weird to say like it hurts me when I see people attack him, but it does make me like, I feel like he's so misunderstood, and that really, it's like I think people are just missing what he's about. Is that does I don't want to talk much more than about him than this, but does it affect you at all, or do you feel like he's misunderstood? Because it feels to me like the people that don't like him just don't know him well enough. It's really sad, actually.
Yeah, and I think the other side of that too is that he's not the type of dude that would tell you, like, he wouldn't brag about all the things he's done, all the people he's helped, all the people he's helped make successful, all the things he's he wouldn't bring in any of that. So it's like, even in the midst of people he wouldn't bring it up. But and I'll say that all that started when he started talking to politicians on the pod.
Yeah,
like they ruin everything. I hate them so much. Yeah, because then he himself became a political football or whatever, and so yeah, I hate that. But yeah, but I just, at the end of the day, man, it's like, as long as you conduct yourself with honor and you know your intentions, you don't have to. You just got to live your life, And I think that's how he goes about it, man. I've seen him go out of his way to be kind to people, So that I can only tell people what I see.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that talk trash, they talk it from a distance, which is fine too. I mean, I guess that's what I do on the podcast. I don't know that billionaire that went down in the sub, or what he was thinking or whatever. I still make fun of him.
Yeah. I listened to that episode. It was funny.
Yeah, that's the price you pay for living the public life is the scrutiny that comes with it. So it's all about how you allow it to affect you.
Do you ever get hate? Do people ever hate on you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people, because we live in a day and age where everyone thinks their opinion is valuable, so they have to share it with you. But I've gotten to the point now where, like, I barely read any of the comments or feedback or whatever. It's like, I just do what I think is dope and I put it out.
Yeah.
And I'll know people like it when people watch it.
Yeah.
Or share it. I don't have to read every little. Yeah.
Yeah, it used to really affect me. Like, I really struggle with it. And I did HVAC, and I had this guy named Kevin yelling at me for like months. "You suck, you're not good." And it really like broke me of all this like stress about what people think. I was like, oh wait, like it just really was good for me. I'm curious, like, is there any parallel with the military? Did the military help you at all, or like shape you into the person you are?
Yeah, to some degree. You know, I always say that if I took one thing from the military, it was I learned how to be miserable and still be productive. You know. Yeah. Because it's not I don't wallow in misery.
Yeah.
I just keep it pushing.
You can endure.
Yeah. Because yeah. I'm resilient. That's it. You know. Because there's and I was around people that were hard living people. Where
Yeah.
they and whatever they asked you to do, they would do twice as much. And so when you see that. Yeah, because I'll put it like this: you don't know until you've been through something. You don't know that you can get through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, and so being put through things that I didn't think I could get through, or thinking I had no more in the tank, and then I still got to run another mile. And stuff like that. Thinking that I learned that there's a difference between doing things like trying your hardest isn't trying until it's hard. It's trying until it's hard and then keep going. That's your hardest is past that, where it gets hard. And up until that point, I think I would always quit when things got hard and go, I tried my hardest, and then but you can't tell a drill instructor you tried your hardest.
They don't care.
He'd be like, no. They're like, well, listen, your food is 2 miles that way, so you can try. I guess if you try your hardest, you can starve out here.
If you want dinner, it's that way. It's 2 miles that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think I've been through a lot of hard, what I would call hard stuff, and it really gave me confidence. Now when bad stuff happens, I'm kind of like, I'll be fine. Like, I've been through this and that, and it gave me confidence that I could push through. I would assume it's the same thing for you.
Yeah. I mean, the downside to that, though, is sometimes when people talk to me about their problems, I don't have the correct response, So you gotta, had to work on my empathy over the years.
We got to remember, like, people, so like my brother killed himself, right? And that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But someone, for them, they've had an easy life. It's not the way I mean that, but sometimes for them, the worst thing that's ever happened to them is a breakup. And for me, I'm like, a breakup? Like, my brother killed himself. But it's like, wait. Whatever the worst thing is for that person, that's still the worst thing they've ever been through. And they're in the same moment I was when my brother died.
Right.
When you've never experienced anything worse than that, you have to remember that. Am I making sense? Like, that's the hardest thing you've ever dealt with, and so they're being tested a lot at that point.
Yeah, but it's like you have to be it's about self-awareness. You have to be cognizant of who you're complaining to, It's like you ran late today. You got to grab a quick lunch, and you walk past the homeless guy and go, oh, I'm starving. It's like he doesn't care what you eat. It's like you might feel like you're starving, but that doesn't mean anything to him. Now you tell that to a room full of your coworkers, they'll be like, "Oh, me too." So it's just about knowing your surroundings, reading the room.
Are there ever days you don't want to get on stage where you're like, you gotta push yourself out there and like really turn it on?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's definitely days. You can get burnt out. You get burnt out, and it kind of goes along the lines of what you were saying before, whereas I think you never want to get to a point where the only thing that's happening in your life is comedy, the stand-up. And then I think it's also healthy to make sure you have at least a day where you are purposely not doing stand-up. So, and it's taken me a while to get to that point, but I have a day, sometimes two, that I do not do stand-up. Like, even if, no matter what the gig is, how lucrative they try to boost it, I don't do stand-up on Sunday or Monday, depending on how my schedule runs up. But it's like, I take the whole day off. I do nothing. And by nothing, I just mean I have no obligations. I might still do
nowhere
things,
to be, though.
But there's nothing I have to do. I might wake up and go back to sleep again.
Yeah.
You know,
You're free. You get a day of freedom.
yeah,
I do the same thing.
Exactly.
Especially coming back. You know, do you write on that day? Like I take Wednesdays off normally. It's my day normally to do nothing. Or to do whatever I want on my own time. But then sometimes if I get an idea and I'm inspired on a Wednesday, I'm like, well, time to write. And I just have to go with it in the moment. Do you have those kind of boundaries? Like, will you still write on your day off?
Nope.
Really? I respect that. That's impressive. Are you afraid of losing like a good idea? Does that ever happen to you where you're like, I don't want to lose this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, no, if I have a great idea, I'll write it down real quick, but I don't write. Like, I don't sit down and, like, I don't go over it any further than that. I just break out the voice recorder and I might just say it to myself. Or that's actually better than writing it down for me. Because sometimes you, like, there's this race against the clock where I'm trying to write the idea out. It's like whatever part of my brain that wants to articulate things is not a creative part. So it's almost like trying to remember a dream. Where it's like I'm trying to write it down before I forget it, but in the rush to get the words. So I'm either rushing to get the words perfect and I forget the point, or I jot it down in like short form, and then later on I don't understand what I wrote. You know, so it's way easier for me to make a little quick voice memo than it is for me to try to write something down real quick. But
I do the same thing. I'll film myself talking on video. I just take a video of like my ceiling and my voice is in the background. Just me.
Yeah, I'll do that all the time. Yeah. But that's not off limits. But purposeful, intentional writing, I don't do that. No, not on my day off.
I need to be sure I'm doing that.
I don't take meetings.
Really?
I don't take phone calls. Nope.
That's awesome, man. How do you date as a comedian? Like, because you're traveling a bunch. So how does that happen? Does it happen?
It does. Yeah. It happens. I think to date as a comedian, I mean, listen, to seriously date, like be in a relationship.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Because I know traveling means fun if you want it, but it also, I would think a committed relationship is really difficult.
Yeah. But I think you just have to be with a very specific kind of person. You know, it is not as rare as, you know, I think any job, anything where your job is also a lifestyle. So musician, comedian, military, cop, you know, where it's like when you, there's no real clocking out, and like you're always that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And your friends are all that, and it's like your whole life is that thing. It's not just a job when you go leave, you know. So it's like when you have a job like that, there's a very specific kind of person that can support you. And you just gotta wait till one of those. I mean, they're not like falling off trees, but they're out there. And because you know, some people just aren't built to, you know, like imagine the kind of person that would need to marry a SEAL team member or something, you know, that's going on missions, that's gone for months on end, that's, you know, they can't tell you certain stuff, etc. Right? And now dilute that by like 1,000, and like you would need that same kind of person to marry any comedian, you know, an officer, a politician, even where they can be, where it's like there's going to be some points where we are in a relationship with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's like all the decisions we make have to be what's best for me sometimes, and which is not the normal way relationships work. You know, most relationships are like, it's like we need to make decisions for us. You know, but in I think when you're married to some, especially an entertainer, but any job like that where, like I said, the job is a lifestyle, you have to sometimes make that sacrifice where like you come second to the job. You know, like, and that's something that's hard for a lot of people to handle in a relationship where they come second, you know?
Yeah, they got to have a lot of confidence and be independent.
Yeah, you see it all the time in the cop shows, you know, where it's like, oh, you know, I got to go to the crime scene. And it's like, well, you haven't been home in 2 days. And it's like, you know, you got to be with the kind of person that's okay with that, you know? Yeah, gone all the time, different sleep hours, different work hours. You know, and then even when they're around, they got to be alone sometimes to be creative or whatever. So yeah, it's a lot for some people.
Um, do you feel like you're the best version of yourself? It seems like in a bunch of timelines it could be Brian Simpson's life. You're doing the best I can imagine. Do you feel that way?
You know, that's hard to say. I'm probably definitely, I don't know, because you know I've always been smart, as though I I used to wonder all the time what my life would be like if I grew up normal with you know the state like I put it like this. There's a kid on YouTube or on Instagram called Miles Music Kid. You seen him?
No, I'll write it down.
He's a genius, maybe 7 years old, and just a musical genius.
Oh, I have seen this kid. He makes like incredible music, but he's like like a little kid. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
seen this kid. Yeah, he's amazing.
And to think about the kind of parents that he must. I don't know much about the kid. I'm guessing maybe he might be on the spectrum to some degree or something like that. But to have the kind of parents to find his thing and then totally pour everything into it, you know, I always wondered. But I don't know that because I didn't know what that thing was when I was that young. So who knows? But I think I'm probably top five. If we lined up all the Brian Simpsons in the multiverse, I'd probably be top five.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. There's probably like a healthier version of me that's still hilarious. Somewhere.
Yeah. I watched a show where I can't remember what it was of you, and someone asked like, what would it take to give up like your favorite foods? And you're like, man, I ain't doing that for anything. It was like $1 billion or something crazy. Like no way.
Oh, was that the Barstool?
I don't remember
Sports
what
thing?
it was, man. It was a long time ago too, but there was some video of you like, that's what I remember. Like, is you were. That's one of the first times I heard of you. Actually, it was like you were doing some internet show, or something like I don't even remember.
Oh wow.
But it was a while ago. Yeah, I'm really curious. I want to talk about. I know you're a gamer, and I love games, but I've never ever like one of the blind spots in my gaming resume is Diablo, like entirely. I've never played it at all, and I know you're really into it. As someone who loves it, can you explain it to me? Someone who wants to understand it and is curious, like, should I be playing it? I feel weird that I'm not. All my friends love it, and I feel weird that I don't. So I want to hear from someone who's really into it.
I mean, because it's one of those games where it's like I don't recommend that people play it because it's a huge time sink, and it's Blizzard, you know, it's Blizzard Activision, so you know you have to really love this kind of game, you know, which is a you know, it's a min-max game. It's a loot grinder game where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, hundreds of times for incremental upgrades.
But I'm playing The Witcher 3 right now, and that's basically what I'm doing. I'm going to every little question mark on the map and like trying to make Geralt like a little bit better here and there. Is it? So I would assume that's if I like that gameplay loop, I would think Diablo would speak to me. Is combat fun?
Well, that's where they nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
The combat it's so satisfying to kill demons. They made it feel, the sound design is incredible. They made it feel good. They made it look good. And I'm telling you, is it like you know, hitting a demon with a bolt of lightning and watching his legs go one way and his head go the other way. It's fantastic. Oh, and they all have money. Every demon has money. So you kill a demon and they drop money. So, you know, they haven't worked that into the lore, like why that is. But it's satisfying. And they've worked it out was like, and if you get a legendary item or a unique item, which is higher. It makes a very like it makes a thud. It hits the ground like a thud, but I don't know how to explain it. It sounds like a hammer attached to a bag of coins. Just hit the. Yeah, I can't even explain it. Yeah, but it's a bass and a. I don't know how to explain it, but it just they nailed it. Yeah, so the gameplay loop is fun. The power fantasy is there. There's different classes and different builds theoretically, and I can't explain. I didn't know so many people would be into it, because what's so awesome about it is you can be as into it as you want to be. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that play it and they pick up something that looks cool and they put it on, or they pick up something that has a cool effect and they put it on. And then there's other people that are, they're into the stats of each thing and they want to squeeze every single % out of every single thing and have all the synergy and the builds all sync up together to get the maximum amount of everything. And you can be that in depth with it, because there's people that's probably playing the game right now and they probably have some nice item and they have no idea, because they're not even looking at all the stats, they don't care. And there's people like me who are like, I have to go through all the minutia and make sure that it all adds up and stays together. So, yeah, I advise that you stay away in the same way that like a League of Legends player would tell you to stay. Don't play it
because it'll suck you in.
It's great, but because if it is for you, you won't be able to stop.
Mm.
And the crazy thing is, there are people. Listen, I've played at least. I've put probably 40 hours into this game, maybe 50. Right? It came out on June 6th, I want to say. Right? I put maybe 40, 50 hours into this game, and I'm like level 90 something. I have one character at level 90. The max level is 100.
I was gonna say it's 100, right? Yeah.
Right. There are people that have taken all 5 classes to level 100 already, and which tells me is like the amount they would literally have to have been playing all day, every day since the game came out. Is that
fun to do? I feel like you're not enjoying it though if you're doing that. Like, that's a lot of like your life. I don't think I can enjoy something doing it that much in that short of a time. Like, that's a lot of.
Oh yeah. Well, but here's the other thing. There's also people that they'll pay money for you to level them up.
Man, it defeats the purpose, right? To you,
for me it does. That's even worse. You're gonna pay somebody so that you look like you're good.
Yeah, that's weird.
Instead of just getting good. But maybe some people don't have time. Does Elon Musk have time to level his character up?
Well, why do you need a good? If you can't play the game, why do you need to have a good character? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make it. Is it like are you posting on Twitter like, look, I got 5 characters at 100, but you didn't play it at all? Like, did you? That's so weird to me. Well, it's the status symbol.
The same sort of people that pay for like aimbots on first person shooters. It's like you aren't actually good at the game. And so the time you're playing the games to seem like you're good, and you could have been spending that time actually being good. I don't understand how those people have fun. I think it's a completely different mindset.
Yeah, that's really weird. That's like the guys who play Madden on like rookie mode so they can win by 80. It's like, that's not fun either. Like, right, I don't like knowing the outcome ahead of time.
Why is rookie mode even in the game? First of all, that should be a separate disc that you have to buy out of shame.
Do I'm like obsessed with Madden, but I only play Madden 11. Like I have an Xbox 360 I bought like 5 years ago that literally sits in a Tupperware container when it's not being used to keep it nice and like safe. And I only play Madden 11 on it. Like, I'm an insane person. I love Madden, but I don't play the new Maddens at all. I just stick with this old, like the one with Drew Brees on the cover from 2011 because it's the best one in my opinion.
Oh wow!
Like I'm just stuck. I'm like, I can't ever. I've tried new ones and I can't do it. I love it.
That maybe the last time I had any fun playing Madden. Maybe I played until 20. 13. But once they started coming out with just the playing cards stuff to buy,
Yeah, Ultimate Team.
I wasn't as into it. Yeah, because I used to obsess over Madden. I would play Madden like 3 hours a day. You know,
I've never played online. I heard your
your
predicament where like your Xbox account is connected to your Madden or something, and you can't play online anymore.
Right. My Xbox account is connected to my old Xbox account is connected to my EA account. And so now, and I don't remember the and so all the stuff I bought for my new Xbox is on my new Xbox account. And apparently Madden EA only lets you connect one Xbox account for life. You can't ever switch it.
They won't even. Can you start a new EA account? That would make sense, right? Like surely.
Maybe I didn't think about that. No, but it's connected to my email address. I guess I'll have to start a whole nother.
It's like how bad you want to play Madden.
Yeah,
you want to start a whole new email?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to get into that.
Yeah, don't. It'll ruin your life. No need.
I just got a PlayStation. I got a PlayStation. It just came.
Yeah. I'm curious.
So we'll see how it works out.
So days you don't want to get on stage. Back to comedy. I'm sorry, one of this weird tangent, but how do you get yourself on stage when you don't want to do it? Like, what do you just do it? You psych yourself up? Like, what's that process like?
Oh, I just go, man. I got good advice when I first started, and it was just like, you need to be able to do your material in every mind frame. You know, whether you're sad or depressed or, happy, anxious, like you need to still be able to perform because you're in show business, and sometimes you don't have the option to not do the show. It's like, because, I'm at the point now where it's like the shows are just getting bigger and bigger and there's more and more at stake. And, at some point I want to be at a point where I'm doing big theaters. So say I have some theater that holds 4,000 people and, and my stomach hurts, and showtime, showtime's in 45 minutes. It's like, am I going to cancel the show? Get back on, that doesn't make sense.
It's too bad. Yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, so I do that preemptively. I have very few days where I just don't want to go up. And the only thing that would change that is if, I would have to be physically unable to.
Yeah. It's like Michael Jordan with the flu.
Yeah,
you make it happen regardless. There's a game happening. I got to perform.
Yeah. Or if it was that, like if it was somewhere I felt like I was going to get other people sick, I wouldn't do that. But other than that, wait a minute. Aren't we hearing that Jordan didn't actually have the flu?
Yeah, we have heard that. And he probably didn't, but it's still an inspiring story, whether you believe it or not. It's still like,
well, you let the legend. Yeah,
I'll still take the legend and just say, hey, I'm like Jordan, man. I don't want to perform today. I got a sunburn. It hurts like hell. I got to go anyway, right? Like you just make it happen.
But you know what? That story's got so many people out there playing in games they had no business playing.
Can you imagine if it's fake? Like how many people? I'm curious. There was something I was going to say. I can't remember what it was. It was really interesting, but it's gone. I don't remember. I had a question about comedy. I don't know. It's got to be awesome to be killing it, right? Like when you're in front of 3,000, 4,000 people and they're all laughing at you and you're on the stage by yourself, the center of attention. What does that feel like? I've never had that moment.
Well, I haven't been in front of thousands of people very often, but yeah, it feels good. It feels good whether it's 50 people or 1,000 people. It feels good every single time. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling ever. Oh, yeah.
Is that a feeling you chase? Like you like almost like a drug where you're like, I want that more. Like anytime I can get that feeling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm trying to sharpen up my jokes so that I can do it when I want.
Yeah.
It's like that's the whole point of like running a joke over and over and over again, cutting out all the fat, all the little bit editing things that you do to get it sharp so that you can absolutely kill if you have to.
Mm. So you take like a scalpel and you really carefully like, hey, maybe we should take this phrasing out and do this part instead. Is that how? Are you almost like surgical writing a joke?
Yeah. Sometimes certain sounds are funnier than others. A certain number of syllables is funnier than others. Sometimes alliteration's funnier. Certain letters are funnier. Certain numbers are funnier. Sometimes, you got to put the thing that was in the back into the front. Sometimes you got to just cut stuff out altogether. There's a lot of, sometimes just word choice matters, or sometimes you're being you're being unclear. You're being what's the word when you can mean two things? You're being ambiguous. When you need to be being more clear and more concise, right? So there's 1,000 different things that you can change or tweak or whatever to get your meaning across, to make sure that there's something there or that there's nothing.
I got one more question. I'll let you go. You've given me an hour and almost a half. I'm so grateful for your time. What cities do you love going to? Like, what are the places around the country that you go do comedy and you're like, that's an awesome spot to perform and hang out in?
Philly, DC, Denver. Had a good time in LA. Oh, Madison, Wisconsin. Had a great time out there.
Madison. Why was Madison great? What about that?
It's one of the best clubs in the country is in Madison.
Really?
Called Comedy on State.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a lot of people's favorite club. If you ask a comic what their favorite club is, they'll either gonna say the answer will most likely either be Comedy Works in Denver, Comedy on State, the Mothership. There's a few others. Zanies in Nashville.
What about New York? There's a place in New York. I'm trying to remember.
Oh,
the Cellar. Yeah, is it Cellar?
Yeah, but that's not. No, obviously the people love the Cellar, but the Cellar is like a workout club. It's like a showcase club. So you wouldn't like do a weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's so you're working on your act.
For right. Whereas the Mothership is kind of both. But the Comedy Works. Actually, I'm at Comedy Works this weekend in Denver. But also, Comedy Works and Comedy on State, they are all they're headliner clubs. So like they book you to come do an hour.
What's the difference between a performance day and because I feel like until you tape your special, you're always working out, right? And you're working out kinks and trying to make it better. So how does that work? Like, how is there a difference between clubs that are worked out clubs and aren't? Because I feel like until you're doing your special, you're always tweaking and trying to get better, right?
Yeah, but like a club like the Cellar or the Comedy Store, it's like you'd show up and do a 15-minute spot tops.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're super famous or you're a legend, you can probably do more than that. But the average comic shows up, they do 15 minutes and then leave. And whereas on the weekend they're paying you to do an hour, and so here's the other side of it too. The average comic shows up do 15 minutes and they leave, but they are not responsible for the draw. So the clubs like the Cellar are just full.
Yeah,
you don't have to like advertise. Yeah. You don't have to do it.
That's like a place for Chappelle, which is like show up randomly, like go off or like do whatever he wants, right?
Oh yeah. That's the kind of place where he could do that anywhere really.
Yeah,
but yeah,
true.
The Cellar is for comics, and then and so the opposite is like if somebody books you for a weekend, like they're paying you to do an hour, but I mean they're really paying you for your fans to come to their club, so you're responsible for the turnout.
Yeah,
like or at least mostly.
Yeah.
So and you get paid you get paid a certain percentage that based on the turnout. Whereas at the showcase clubs, like they pay you a flat rate to show up, do your 15 minutes and leave, and they fill the club.
Yeah.
You know, so usually there's the only clubs like that are in the comedy cities, like Los Angeles, New York, maybe Chicago, definitely Austin now. So you won't see a workout club like that in, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a common place.
Yeah.
Where people, no one works out. At least not that I know of. No.
Who's doing it really good right now? Like who are the funniest guys? And I obviously like Bill Burr and Rogan and Chappelle, but who are the guys that maybe I've never heard of that you're really into right now?
That's putting a lot of pressure on it. I mean, you heard of Shane Gillis?
Shane Gillis, yeah, he's funny. He's like a star in the making, man. If he's not already.
Well, yeah, he's pretty huge. Guys that you may have never heard of. Hey, I told you about Derek Poston. He's on the road with Andrew Schultz. The young boy Cam Patterson, he's about to blow up.
What's his name?
Cam Patterson.
Cam Patterson.
Cam with a K.
Cam with a K.
I
didn't mean to put you on the spot,
yeah,
but you would know better than I do. So.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled stoned for this. You know what? This is on me. I should, because I get asked this question often enough. I should just have a list. Oh, actually, I do have a list. Man, old me was really looking ahead.
Well, I figure, it was cool to hear the way Segura lifted you up, and I'm like, let's give someone a shout out. Like Cam Patterson's a name I've never heard of, and that's a guy I'm definitely gonna Google tonight and be like, what's he got? Let's look at his YouTube channel. Let's look at his clips, because I love comedy. It's truly like one of my. I just get high.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you gotta check out CP.
CP,
Comedian
who's that?
CP. His name's Comedian CP.
Comedian CP.
Yeah, that dude's funny. Brian Davis, you heard of him?
Uh-huh.
I think his special's about to come out pretty soon. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, man. That's a good list. I got Cam Patterson, Comedian CP, Brian Davis, Derek Poston. Those are pretty good names, man. That's names I've never heard of that I'm definitely gonna look up later. So mission accomplished.
He did it.
Cool, man. Well, hey, I just want to say thank you. You gave me an hour and a half of your time. I'm very grateful, and I'm rooting for you. I know you're taping your special soon, and I'm really, really excited for your future, man. You're already killing it, but I just think the sky's the limit, man. You're so amazing, and I truly want you to know that when you followed me on Instagram one day, I was like, no way. Like, I love this guy. I was like, this is awesome. I called my dad. I'm like, dude, like, Brian Simpson just followed me on Instagram. Like, he's hilarious. And it was really cool. It was like, I'm a big fan of you, man. So I appreciate your support.
Likewise, man. I'm glad you got to make it out to Hawaii and you get right back at it.
Thank you, man. Well, hey, have a great day and enjoy the tour.